Frank Lampard, who has been on the unemployment line since Chelsea sacked him, might be a shock candidate for the national team job. Question one, where did this come from? Question two, Gareth, and maybe the more important question, how seriously should we be taking a rumor with the magnitude of this one?
I would say not very seriously at all. I can't see this happening. I did some digging and I found nothing that would indicate that Lampard was a legitimate candidate for this job. Look, this is what happens in the industry. I've dealt with it before when an agent reaches out to a member of the media and then ends up linking someone to a potential job. As Frank Lampard indicated, he may be interested in being the Canada manager. Perhaps he's unemployed. He's looking for a gig. And that's a pretty good one if you want to venture into international football. But associations, this is how it works. Like when hiring a manager, you go through a lot of different channels. You go through agents, you could go through coaches, you go through confederations, you go through the FIFA Pro list, and you can kind of go through a FIFA portal as well. And when Canada first put out this job availability or job opening, then plenty of people that are FIFA licensed then put their names forward as potential interested parties in pursuing this gig. That's how it happens. And if you want your name to be part of the mix, then why don't you go to a reliable reporter from a decent enough publication in the UK and get them to put something out there. But there was no concrete evidence shared in that piece. And it would be hard for me to imagine that Lampard, based upon his most recent record in recent stays in Everton and Chelsea, I think he won 12 games in 55 in his last 55. Everton was a stinker. Chelsea, when he came at the end of the season, won one from their last 11. It was just dreadful. So he needs to do some career recitation, to say the least. Although he's a name and a really likable figure, I mean, he's going to come at a high ticket price with very few guarantees he's going to be able to get the job done. And getting the job done is going out and improving this team. So I think if you are going to spend bigger sums of money on someone, then you got to make sure that it's an absolute slam dunk. That is not Frank Lampard. And guys, I just don't see in everything that I hear, like the Canadian Soccer Association isn't going to rush this. If I was to venture a guess, Mauro Biello is going to manage Canada through the Copa Americas, through those friendlies, and we'll see if a manager might be named before and when he might go on and take over. It's been a long time, unfortunately, with the general secretary situation. Now Kevin Blue at the helm, people reaching out, getting all kinds of applications and figuring out what they want in a manager. And on top of that, they're going to need some really good advice from trusted individuals in making this hire as well, because on the current makeup of the board and right now the general secretary with a lack of soccer experience, I think they got to tap into a whole lot of resources. So I just don't think that this will be rushed. And I certainly don't think that Frank Lampard will be part of that equation.
Oliver Platt, let's envision a world where there is mutual interest and the CSA says, you know what, Frank, we would love to have you aboard. And the feeling is mutual. It's all lovey-dovey and happy and everyone's ready to get this project started with Frank. Would he be the right man for the job? What we've seen from him in his limited coaching experience, of course, he's got that player pull that so many of these young stars can look up to. Do you think it could work?
I think it could work. He wouldn't be my first choice. I don't want to like be one of those people who just dunks on Frank Lampard. I think his last two jobs have obviously not gone well at all. They're also the two clubs that may be the most difficult in the Premier League to manage right now, with the situations that Everton and Chelsea have found themselves in over the past couple of years. There's been other managers at those clubs who haven't done much better at all. So I think there is, if you go further back to his first spell at Chelsea and to his time at Derby before that, there were some signs there of a promising manager. It's all gone wrong for him since then. I've said all along, and I'm basically in the same position as I was when this all started, when John Herdman left however many months ago. I would be open to a standout foreign candidate coming in and taking this job if one exists. I don't know, who they are right now. I don't know how much there is to this report, to the Thierry Henry report, to potentially other foreign managers who have been linked with the job. Hervé Renard, I think, was another one. I'm not totally against that, but for me, I would lean, if I was kind of leading this process, I would be leaning homegrown. That's just always been my stance on it. I think we have good coaches in this country. I also think right now we're in a situation where we kind of need to have our cake and eat it in a way, because we need someone who can come in quickly and hit the ground running. But we also need someone who can take care of the longer term aspects, the legacy, and think about those things in the context of co-hosting a World Cup as well. So for me, someone who is familiar both with the team and the Canadian landscape as a whole is much more likely to be able to succeed in doing both of those things. And that's why I lean towards a Canadian candidate over the foreign options.
I just want to say really quickly, I think that Canada's job being in the foreign press is a good thing, whether it's about upcoming, marquee friendlies or the manager's position. Ollie mentioned a name in Renard. I know I was of the understanding that he did have initial interest, and then obviously that was pulled back, and I'm really not sure what or how that played out there. But I think some more confidence needs to be, put into this Canada job, how good of a job it is hosting a home World Cup, and the opportunities that lie ahead. For me, get rid of that off-field noise. The on-field stuff is really exciting when it comes to the Canadian men's national team. So hopefully that kind of pushes things back in that direction where it's a job that, prime candidates actually really want.
And Gareth, something else that's going to help continue to build the reputation of this program is Canada playing in high-profile matches, friendlies or otherwise. Of course, Copa America, Argentina to begin the tournament. That will be a show in itself. The confirmed friendly with the Netherlands. But then there was also this over the weekend, and there was a report from the L'Equipe, who suggested that the French Football Federation has booked a friendly with the Canadian men's national team. Now, Joshua Cloak of The Athletic did some digging to see if he can get some confirmation. He got this quote from Paulo Senra with the CSA saying that the Canada Soccer is, quote, actively in conversations with the French Football Federation and is working diligently to get those details finalized. Jordan Wilson, we know that we have one World Cup champion coming up in Atlanta, Georgia this summer. We could have another World Cup champion just around the corner. How big of a deal would this be for the Canadian men's national team?
I mean, one of the biggest. I mean, this is colossal, right? You're obviously playing Argentina or Canada is on June 20th, but you're looking at 2018 World Cup winners and then 2022 World Cup finalists. But France just oozes talent. And then may I say just two words, Kylian Mbappe. You're looking at, there's the Messi, but top 3 in the world. I don't think anyone can argue with that. And a player, hopefully, if Canada's playing them, is playing that day. And that's a beautiful test. I think with 2 months nearly 2 months away from the Copa America, Marbiello, for me, I don't see someone coming in. Maybe that happens, but I just think it's such a short window, and I don't think there's been much change. But this is a team that's going to have to really get used to defending and playing on the counter. I think this is a beautiful test. Maybe that's a situation where it's 70-30 for possession for Canada, but what does it matter? It's really about being productive and trying to get the most out of those matches. So you got to play these great teams. And I remember a few years back, it's just, you're talking about the CONCACAF matchup and teams that, Canada could dominate. But when you go to the world stage and how big that is, you want to play against better teams. You're not really getting much better than France. Yeah, there's Argentina, but France are just right up there in terms of a team that could really, really bop you on the day if you're not up for it. So this would be the perfect test right before Copa America. I'm looking forward to that game if it happens.
Ollie.
Would be fantastic. It's what we've been asking for years, is not even these kinds of opponents, like maybe even a bracket down from these kinds of opponents would have been nice at times in the past 5 years or so. So to have potentially a spell of 2 weeks where you're going to play Netherlands, France and Argentina, as well as Chile and Peru, obviously in the group stage as well, like that would be fantastic for this national team, whatever it looks like, whatever the results are. I think what you learn in those games is huge.
Yeah, sure. And especially because these are important games. These just aren't standalone friendlies, not building towards anything. These are on the eve of Euro. So, these are going to be first teams. These are going to be first choice players. And it's big preparation for Canada as well. And this is what we hope is what things are going to look like in the build up to 2026. More games like this. They're invaluable. The problem is generally with the FIFA calendar, with Nations League played in CONCACAF, in Europe, these regional competitions have really limited the ability to go out and get games like this. So obviously Canada has a relationship with France, with the women's teams playing one another last year. So I think there's good reason to believe that this report is true. A Thursday, Sunday, Netherlands, France, a little trip over to Europe, early June. Sounds like it could be in the cards.
Whew, what a schedule.
Could be
D-Day
yeah,
celebration
the-
as well. D-Day recognition game is really meaningful as well against the Dutch. So, I mean, it sounds like a great trip. Need to book my tickets.
No, Gareth mysteriously goes absent over the course of the summer. We'll know where to start looking.